Hi, welcome to Unspoken History. Today we're going to be talking a little bit, because I only found a little bit of information about Jeremiah Reeves. I mentioned him in the Claudette Colvin's video because it seemed like one thing, it didn't seem like it was stated in articles that what happened with Jeremiah Reeves sparked Claudette to do what she did, and then Rosa to do what she did, and the whole Montgomery bus boycott, civil rights, and all that. So it's apparently started with the Jeremiah Reeves case. Um, but I can't hardly find any information on him. The woman, Mary Ann Crowder, I find that quite interesting or strange. Like, he don't have a mama or a daddy. I mean, sisters, brothers, cousins, uncles. It was like he just this kid. Well, let me read it. Let me read it. Just this person out there, and then when I tried to look for like a you know, his biography or anything, his history of his life, birth, all I get is him. So I'm gonna read you that little bit. And if I can find something else, like I said at the library, I said that in another video about Claudette because um, the internet don't have very much. I mean, there's a few articles, but they all say the same thing, except for the one um, that I read about that the BBC did, because that actually was her speaking. So, but if I can't find anything, there's a reason. Just saying. It ain't been long enough. We got to wait a long time for information to be put out. At least 50 years. Everybody involved need to be dead by the time that information come out. Just saying. Okay, so this Jeremiah um, Reeves story, I got to pull it up because I had something else up there. So, um, let me see. I read one before, a little bit of one. Okay, let's do this one. This day in history, April 6, 1958. Execution of wrongly convicted black teen Jeremiah Reeves sparks protests in Montgomery. On November 10th, 1952, Jeremiah Reeves, a 16-year-old high school student and jazz drummer. Now, this whole story is strange to me because I don't know no 16-year-olds that's in a bands with grown men and traveling with grown men and still in high school. That means you playing in clubs at night. You playing in the juke joints. It was just so much about this story. This seems like a psyop. But anyway, let's read it. He was a 16-year-old black high school student and jazz drummer. Was arrested in Montgomery, Alabama, and interrogated about the rape of Mabel Ann Crowder. The previous July, Miss Crowder, a white woman, had claimed rape after she was discovered in her home having sex with Jeremiah. They didn't say anything about windows were broken, the door was kicked in, nothing. They were just having sex. Okay, apparently this was a grown woman, and obviously this is a child. But they didn't say nothing about that because apparently now he's black, so he must be a grown man. But he's a child. And they never even say how old she was. So this could have been, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to say it, but you know what I'm saying. Could have been that. And the child gets executed for it because he's a Negro, not because he's black. There was plenty of black people in America. They weren't all treated like this. Anyway, It looks like my camera is like making me look robotic. I hope it's filming right. Yeah, it's doing some weird stuff. But anyway, hopefully the YouTube thing can fix it. It says Miss Crowder, a white woman, had claimed rape after she was discovered in her home having sex with Jeremiah. Sex many Sex many in the black community suspected was part of a consensual, ongoing affair. Jeremiah delivered groceries. I read this in another article. He delivered groceries from the grocery store. So when he would go around to places and deliver their groceries. She was on his grocery route. Now, if he was raping her, no, maybe she was just saying he just raped her this one time. Just happened to be bringing the groceries this time, and this time he decided he's gonna bust in. No, 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 no. I can tell the fairy tale version of it. That's what I would have to call it because, you know, but I'm sure we've seen movies like this before, with the delivery milkman. I'm sorry. I don't know if you heard the story about the milkman. But anyway, the delivery boy, he starts to look kind of good after a while. And so then you start offering him orange juice or milk or whatever. I'm sorry. Come on. So the black community said it was consensual. Within minutes of his arrest, Jeremiah was taken to Kilby Prison, where during questioning by police, of course, who were all white, sad state of affairs. But just because your skin's white don't mean you evil. I know some people like to, you know, make it seem like all white people are evil. No, those white people were evil. Some evil black folks. Okay. Took him to Kilby Prison, where during questioning by police, he was strapped into the electric chair and told that he would be electrocuted unless he admitted committing all of the rapes of white women that summer. Interesting. The fearful boy or man or girl or woman or whoever would have been strapped to that electric chair, of course, confessed to the charges against him. Then the local NAACP chapter became involved. Now we know that the boy was executed, so I'm just saying. They got involved and couldn't help. Why? Why couldn't the lawyer Thurgood Marshall? Well, you know what? He did his part. Let me finish reading. The local NAACP chapter became involved in this case and attracted the attention of national leadership, including lawyer Thurgood Marshall. Marshall and other counsel won reversal of Jeremiah's conviction on December 6, 1954, when the United States Supreme Court ruled that the trial judge at Jeremiah's first trial was wrong to prevent the jury from hearing evidence on how his confession was obtained. Okay. But then the Supreme Court sent him back to that same judge and jury. It was unconstitutional to convict him in a state court with an all-white jury. I'm just saying. First of all, you shouldn't have tried to try him in state court because you were biased. It was supposed to automatically be referred over to the Supreme Court because of the bias. And then the Supreme Court send it back down there and tell him to do the right thing. Really? And what if I don't? What's going to happen? Nothing. So he did what he wanted to do. That's why the boy is no longer here. Okay. So it says that, the previous judge was wrong to prevent the jury from hearing evidence of how his confession was obtained. So it, I don't think that it would have mattered if we had said to the jury, hey, they strapped this boy to an electric chair to get his confession. Birds of a feather flock together. Anyway, that's why I try to watch the birds that I flock with. While winding its way through the courts, Jeremiah's case also became a flashpoint for the Montgomery civil rights movement. Claudette, I always say her name wrong. I'm sorry, Claudette. Claudette Colvin, who was arrested at 15 for refusing to give up her seat to a white woman on a Birmingham bus in March 1955, was inspired to take that protest action as a show of support for Jeremiah, her friend and schoolmate. You know, she just got riled up inside. She just couldn't take it no more. Especially when you're going to school with somebody every day. You know what's going on. You know he's sneaking over there to that woman's house. People probably told him, man, you better leave that white woman alone. Ain't nobody gonna find out. She likes it. Or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, Claudette, who was arrested at 15 for refusing to give up her seat to a white woman on a Birmingham bus in March 1955, was inspired to take that protest against a show of support for Jeremiah, her friend and schoolmate. Claudette later became one of the four plaintiffs in Browder versus Gale, the case that led the Supreme Court. It was Claudette that led the Supreme Court to order buses desegregated in 1956. Or we could have had white buses, white only buses, and Negro only buses, or black only, whatever, however you want to call it. But I'm not going to keep playing that game where everybody black in America is the same. No, I'm not playing that game. We got the Negroes and we got the other black people or the other people, whatever you want. I'm not trying to make nobody upset with calling them whatever. But you got the Negroes and then you got everybody else. Okay. So it says that Rosa Parks also corresponded with Jeremiah and got his poetry published in the Birmingham World. She went on to repeat Colvin's gesture in December 1955. So Claudette did it in March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. 9 months later, 8 months later, whatever. So in December, sparking the Montgomery bus boycott. So it was kind of planned. Because Claudette had already done it. So, and they weren't going to use her for the face of the movement. So it was kind of like staged for, well, I'm not going to say that because I ain't going to say that. I wasn't there. And there's all kind of crazy stuff that floats around that's not true. So, yeah, I'm tired of being caught up in all this. Oh, I'm sorry, that wasn't true. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Even though you read it from a source that's supposed to be legitimate. In the second trial in June 1955, Jeremiah was again convicted and sentenced to death. All appeals were unsuccessful, and he was executed on March 28th, 1958, at age 22. So they waited till he was an adult. Like that mattered. Y'all didn't want to go down in history for executing a 16-year-old who was innocent, but you were okay with executing a 22-year-old who was innocent. Okay. It says that Jeremiah spent much of his time in prison writing poetry, and he willed his final poem to his mother. All right, let's see. I think that's all I wanted to read on that one. And then it was, like I said, it wasn't very much information at all. And I understand, especially in this day, like I can't find anything on the Marianne Crowder. Well, because people are off. Some people are off. You say something about something on social media and they start terrorizing and harassing the person. Like, I don't know if it's true, but um, Marvin Sapp was given taking an offering for wherever he was speaking. And somebody took a clip of that portion of the offering where he said, "Ushers, close the doors. Close the doors, ushers. Ushers, close the doors." And then he start talking about how much money he wanted to raise. Oh my goodness. Oh my good. So I'm just saying, you can't really be going on social media revealing people's information because people are off, and trying to clip, that he did say that, but he wasn't, he said he wasn't raising the money for himself. He was raising it for the church or for the organization he was speaking for. So he was speaking at the organization. And at the end, this is typical in churches. If they invite someone to come and speak, it's because that person is going to bring a crowd, and then that person is going to be able to raise a good offering. And that's what Mr. Sapp was doing, trying to raise a good offering for the organization that invited him there. But anyway, then he got blasted. How dare you? You got all kind of money and you forcing those people. Because it was just a little clip. It wasn't the whole thing. So I understand why Mabel Ann Crowder information is not nowhere that I can find. But neither is Jeremiah's. Like, I really would like to find, let me read the other one. This one is called Black Then. Or let me see which other one I have. I just read the one that I'm on right now is Easy Waters. I ain't never heard of that either. But the one, when I read it on the Library of Congress, it's one paragraph. I tried everything looking up Jeremiah Reeves, the lynching of Jeremiah Reeves, something. And it was this much information. I don't find that interesting. I do. Okay, let's read this little bit we got left. This website is called Black Then, Discovering Our History. Wrongfully convicted of rape. It says, according to a biographer, Joyce A. Hanson, Reeves was a high school band drummer. Okay, that sounds more appropriate than a jazz drummer at 16. I wish they had a picture. There was a picture of him with, and I don't even know if that's him, so let me be quiet about that. Because I have seen pictures on the internet where they were calling the same picture two different names. One of them was Frederick Douglass and somebody else, and I'm like, they look like the same person. But anyway. Noisy neighbors were suspicious of what? Okay, so this one says he was a high school jazz band drummer who worked as a grocery delivery boy. Crowder claimed rape after she was discovered in her home having relations with Reeves. Most people throughout the Black community suspected that the relationship was consensual and an ongoing affair. She must have been young. She must have been close to his age, but she wasn't 16 because she had a house. On the day he was arrested, noisy neighbors were suspicious. Ooh, that Gladys. I don't know what her name is in your neighborhood, but Gladys always wonder what's going on at somebody else's house. My grandmother and her friend, it was so funny. They would call each other. So I grew up in the projects, and the projects in Michigan, in Pontiac, Michigan, and it was kind of big. So we had a whole. This lady lived on Clovis. If you're from Pontiac, you probably know what I'm talking about. And my grandmother used to live on Clovis, across the street from the woman, and they still would call each other and talk about everything that was going on all over the whole projects, and this was big. So by this time, my grandmother was living on Howell McNeil. And so I would come in and catch them talking. Girl, did you know so and so and so? It was like you had the police scanner, but it was these two old ladies that knew everything about everybody, but they never left the house. I don't know how they did it. But anyway, so you got one of those in your neighborhood. They were like, you know what? When that little black boy come over here to deliver these here groceries, he sure stay in there a long time. It don't take that long to drink a glass of lemonade. Okay. So they were suspicious of what might be going on in the Crowder home. They allegedly peeked in. Really? Peeping Toms too? They allegedly peeked in the window and saw the couple undressing. So Crowder screamed, "Rape!" This was still common in the 80s, all the way up to past the 80s. It was a saying, boy, you better leave that white girl alone. Because if she get mad at you, all she got to do is say rape, and you go into jail. Reeves was arrested and taken to Kilby Prison, where he went through hours of interrogation by police, so we know that part. See if anything else in here. No. And that's it. Now, Claudette's got a mom and a dad and the grandparents. Rosa's got mom, dad, How come Jeremiah ain't got no parents? Let me try to look one more time. Try to look one more time. Let me ask the AI. Let me ask Copilot. See what they can do. Probably nothing. Can gather information. I'm looking at the wrong laptop, sorry. Okay. I got to put in a lot. They ain't as smart as you think. All right. So let me tell you what Copilot says. Or the AI. Because they all gonna say the same thing. Jeremiah Reeves was a young African American. They weren't called African American in his 50s. They were called Negroes or blacks. All right. It says, excuse me, that cayenne got me that time. All right. Surrounding this case, born. Okay, there we go. There's a little more information. He was born in 1935. So 19. 55. Okay. All right, so he was born in 1935. He was a talented drummer and a high school senior in Montgomery, Alabama. At the age of 16, he was accused of raping a white woman, Mabel Ann Crowder, in 1952. Reeves denied the charges, but under duress after being strapped to an electric chair was okay. Then he confessed. Okay, and then it says his trial was swift and deeply biased, with an all-white jury convicting him in less than 30 minutes. Despite appeals and the involvement of civil rights advocates, including Martin Luther King, Reeves was executed by electrocution on March 28th, 1958, at the age of 22. At least I know when he was born now, but that's it. Then it goes back into the Claudette, story. Yeah. Well, looks like that's it. Either he was a real person or he was not. However, I can't trust nothing these days, but I will say the Library of Congress do have his information listed in there. But it's like I said, it's one paragraph, and it's like it's the catalyst for the whole civil rights movement and the Montgomery bus boycott. Okay, just like George Floyd was the catalyst for, I don't really know, DEI. I don't know. Strange things happen because after the civil right, after all of that, executing a child, the bus boycott, the whole civil rights movement, what did Negroes get? An Immigration Act. Think about that. See you next time. Like the video, share, and subscribe. Thank you.